What's up, everybody? This is Logan Hanks with the Living Fully Loaded podcast. I've got an awesome episode for you guys today. Actually, a really exciting one. I am not in studio today. I'm in I would say, an even cooler studio than my own. We're at the Fieldcraft HQ. I'm here with Mike Glover. Mike, thanks for joining me, man.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. You came from Tennessee, so that's a long trip, man. Thank you for coming out.
It is a long trip, about 1,500 miles.
Oh, wow. Did you drive?
No.
Okay.
No, I showed my wife because she came with me. She's never been out here.
Oh,
and
good vacation spot.
It is, man, and it was funny. I was actually telling Brenda down there that we flew into Salt Lake City and we drove to the salt flats. I was like, well, I got to do the tourist thing.
Yeah.
And we drove down to the salt flats, and it was so like desolate and just bare, and I was like, man, it kind of like bummed me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And we drive out of Salt Lake City. We're staying in Park City, and it gets pretty green, and I'm like, that's pretty nice. And so then this morning, driving here to Heber City, I was like, I mean, dude, I was blown away.
Oh, yeah.
This is
different.
Unreal. Like,
it's a hidden little area.
Yeah.
Where I like when people go to Salt Lake City and they're like, screw this place. And they don't explore, because we're definitely a little gem.
Oh, it is. I told my wife, I said, tomorrow we're coming back to Heber City, because she's waiting on me just to kind of walk around this afternoon.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know where we're going tomorrow.
Go to Midway, which is this little small town between Heber. I mean, it's like 2 minutes from here.
Yeah.
But Midway's real cool. Good
I'll
places
check it
to
out.
eat, a little bit of shopping, but it's definitely not Park City. It's a different demographic for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting demographic there. I was walking through the town, which it's not quite the end of June yet. I mean, we're at the end, but it's still, companies are still celebrating.
Yeah, there's like 3 Starbucks in Park City, and there's a Black Rifle Coffee here. So it's like, it tells you the story of the demographic.
Oh, is there one here in Heber?
They're built, Karl Malone, his group, because, Karl Malone's a Utah Jazz basketball player, pretty staunch conservative. He's building a Black Rifle Coffee here in town.
Awesome.
It's the banner's already up for the grand opening, which is awesome, because I'm excited about it. I should have had that franchise, but Karl Malone, I guess, is a good dude for me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Now, aren't you pairing up with them?
For the Black Rifle?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do my own Black Rifle in Dallas, Texas.
Gotcha.
Somebody told me the other day, like, oh, yeah, but you're saturating the market in Dallas. I'm like, there's 7.6 million people in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah.
I'm like, we're not saturating nothing.
And how many Starbucks are there?
Oh, I was going to say, and how many Walmarts and how many – it's like driving through that place from south to north is like driving through 10 different countries.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny, which I think we're in a good age for Black Rifle Coffee and all these different businesses like that, where, really, I'm a guy, I like to know where my money's going. And, I'm pretty boring when it comes to coffee, black coffee. But if I can buy some coffee here that I know supports my values, or I can spend my money here with a company that's going to donate to anti-gun and all these things that are pretty much in direct opposition of my beliefs, why would I not want to have one that I can, know where my money's going towards?
Yeah, I think that's people try to shy away from that, and because the new conservative thing is saying, if you try to cancel a business, then you're somehow just like the left, right? Because cancer culture is toxic. I don't get that, because I'm not talking about canceling a celebrity because of First Amendment rights. I'm talking about canceling my market decisions because I'm a consumer.
Yeah.
And so if REI wants to kick Camelback out because they're pro-gun, then I won't go to REI.
Yeah.
If Starbucks wants to support paying for people's abortions, then I won't go to Starbucks. And I think we naturally do that, and we've done it since business has been thriving in the United States since the beginning of its time in some form or fashion. But I don't have any problem with that, and I want the options.
Yeah,
I want to walk up to a Starbucks and a Black Rifle Coffee, and I want to look and go, well, this is an easy one for me, because I'm not going to support a company that supports people getting abortions. I'm not doing that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Man. I mean, that's how walking through, we actually walked on the strip. I guess it's historic Maine, I think, in Park
Yeah.
City.
Yep.
Which I told my wife, I said, because I had looked, I know Utah is overall, it's a red state.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty shocked because it was pride flags everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, now, I was just telling you before we got on air, Memphis is 20 miles out of Munford, where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And Munford is like super red.
Mm-hmm.
And then Memphis, very blue. You can go from Munford, when Trump was running, it was Trump signs everywhere. You go to Memphis, we have Midtown in Memphis. And I was like, this is basically Midtown because it's exactly the same way. Very liberal area. And there we walked past a North Face. And North Face is another one, man. I'm not going to go in there. To me, they're pushing this weird, it's, I guess, a weirdly over-sexualized thing going on. I don't even know how to explain it. But, they're pushing this drag, tranny stuff. And I'm not trying to be offensive to people, but, that's just not quite in line with my views.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Even the gay pride thing. Sure, if you're gay, that's fine. But Asian Pacific Islander and Asian American month was last month. And that's an actual culture.
Yeah.
That's not a sexual orientation.
Yeah.
That is a culture. And when you look at, how many companies went out of the way to do anything besides Instagram that put a Asian emoji, which I thought looked racist. How many of those are willing to do things for culture?
Yeah.
And so we're creating these subcultures, and it's like gay pride. Well, why? If you're gay, good for you.
Yeah.
Just do you.
Yeah.
But I don't have to celebrate your sexual orientation.
Yeah, I'm not asking
bizarre.
people to celebrate mine.
There's not a heterosexual month.
Yeah, that's what I've said. Yeah.
Fathers get a day.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are we doing here? Like African American Heritage Month, I get it, because culturally that's a significant part of our history. But when you do this whole gay pride thing, the trans movement, and all these different segments of really, when you dig down in the weeds, a lot of mental health issues, especially with transitioning. It's scary because I don't see the corporate position where, one, you would benefit as a company by doing that, and then two, the overall point. What's the objective, man? And I think it is potentially a toxic objective where they want to change culture.
But why?
I know, it's weird.
That's what I've also thought that, in the grand scheme of things, I think that they make up 3 or 4% of the population.
So small.
So that's what, with North Face, when I saw them put up their video, and a lot of their market initially would have been your mountain climbers or something your outdoors folks like that. And I'm like, really, how much of a percentage does your business benefit from them? When I saw that, I'm like, all they're really doing is alienating a large portion of their customer base.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
They're appeasing that small demographic because they want to be classified as woke, and it's likely some kind of large capital investment or investor who's telling them, because we got to stay on the up and up in woke. There's prerequisites now in woke. Assurances for companies.
Really?
Oh yeah. My good buddy who's a celebrity, I can't say his name, but this dude's a huge celebrity. He was telling me offline, we were having dinner, and he was telling me that his company had just got hit with all these segments, and including blocks of instruction, where they had to get anti-racism, sexual harassment, equal opportunity, all those things, but it's all about woke culture, and they have to get those assurances checked off. And then there's a nonprofit that runs it, and if your company doesn't own up to the assurances, you're advertised as not being squared away, and then you'll get suppressed.
But why? Why is this? How is such a small percentage affecting stuff so largely? That's what I don't understand.
It's big money. So it's the George Soros, it's the big billionaire agendas that push all this stuff. You follow the money, you follow that trail, it's going to lead you to the ideology.
Yeah.
It's all that stuff.
But
man.
isn't he, like, I don't even understand, because I hear with Soros, but, like, that dude, I don't think he's gay. I mean, what's his benefit from this liberal
I think it's
push?
votes. I mean, if you look at the Democratic Party and then you look at their political position, their entire messaging is dependent on swinging that entire population of voters. And if you if you don't say anything, you might as well be saying something against the cause nowadays.
Yeah.
And so you'll lose and isolate those voters. They want to hear you say that.
I guess that's why all these companies are having to put up their rainbow stuff, because if they don't, then it's like, oh, so you just don't agree.
Yeah, it's like the concept of anti-racism. It's like, what? So now if I tell you that I'm not racist, then I'm more racist.
Yeah.
And it's opposite day. It's bizarro world.
It is, man. I've actually said for a while, I think we're living in the movie Idiocracy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's exactly, I feel like we're just moving further and further to that. And, you know, I don't know. I come from a very, very conservative area. I mean, and I'm like in that somewhat hated class being a farmer. We're like, it's funny. It really trips me out to see these people that hate farmers, you know, and it's no secret. We're like 90% conservatives. And, you know, Trump dominated with the votes of farmers. We're just conservative minded. And it's funny, man. I'd see some comments online, which is a Facebook and all that's a cesspool a lot of times, but some guy was like, I wish every farmer would go broke. And it's like, just, do you realize how stupid that is?
Yeah, you go starving if every farmer went broke.
Yeah. But that's the mentality today.
Yeah, I think everybody, look, the benefit of freedom and the symptoms of freedom are complacency.
Yeah.
So when you get so comfortable in your complacency, you feel invincible. And so you got a roof over your head, you got a government cell phone, you got the government cheese coming in your fridge. You have everything that's a necessity for survival taken care of by the government, which is basically a socialist class. So you have a socialist class in this country who want to just continue to destroy it, because the more they destroy it, then the more government cheese they'll get.
Yeah.
It doesn't benefit their position to think conservative values like be a free thinker, be a libertarian, be a free capitalist, understand markets, create your own destiny.
Yeah.
You know, none of that is advantageous for the person who's basically submitting and outsourcing everything to the government.
Yeah.
Which is what we're in a battle of now. I don't even think it's ideology. I think it's a big gov issue where the bigger government gets, the further away we get disconnected from reliance. And a lot of people want that, man.
Yeah.
They don't want to cut the umbilical cord. I mean, abortion is the perfect example of that. Like, abortion has to do with personal responsibility.
Yeah.
The policy of the Supreme Court justices is it's not the federal government's position nor constitutional obligation to provide abortions for people as a federal mandate. It's not the country's best interest based on the Constitution.
Yeah.
So it can be handed down to the state to allow them to figure that out, like almost everything, right? And then these woke losers go out and they burn their own town down, not even realizing they're literally protesting because they think abortion's is illegal now.
Yeah.
And you're like,
it's just moved to the state level.
It's moved to the state, and every Democratic state has come out and said they're not going to get rid of abortion.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're like, you're advocating that you want to kill more babies.
Yeah.
And there's women who are putting shirts on or writing on their bare naked bodies saying, I'm proud to have 21 abortions, because now abortion is birth control.
Yeah.
How about personal responsibility? How about a condom? How about abstinence? How about a value? How about an ethic? How about you keep your damn legs closed?
Yeah.
And I don't get it. But that's the perfect analogy. It's like it's analogous to all of the issues that we're having where these people are so brainwashed because they are so. If you have a conversation with them, they literally can't get through a sentence without hiccup up.
Yeah.
But if you try to communicate to them, they have a breakdown because they're so brainwashed by the propaganda. And that's so damn sad because that's exactly what you see when people become so dependent on something.
Yeah.
It's like a religion. Their new religion is big gov.
Yep.
They have to have it.
But me and you are backwards for thinking this way. That's how they view it, you know.
Yeah.
No, man, I mean, it has been wild. I mean, it just further shows the like level of insanity. And I would actually say like the mental illness in the country is rampant. Because that's what, when I see these people screaming, I'm like, you're screaming about wanting to kill a baby, which is actually interesting. Me and you have a lot in common. You have twins, I have twins, and that's what like having kids. I could not imagine. I mean, my kids are 4. Couldn't imagine like ever hurting them, anything like that, and just knowing the joy they bring to my life. That's where I'm like, how in the world these people, people having 20 abortions. I mean, which personal responsibility, that's like gone. That's an old school brain, like way of thinking. Instead of, like you said, practicing being smart, maybe having some morals, like that's something that these people that go out and they have one night stands and then they get knocked up and then they have an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to like keep, and it's like, well, why don't you how about you just not have a one night stand? Like, don't sleep with somebody if you don't intend, if you have no like plan of a future with this person. But again, that's like, we're wrong for saying that. Like we're backwards in our thinking to today's time, and it's just wild, man. I don't know. I feel like the pendulum has swung so far to the left. I feel like it has to swing back. I mean, do you see it coming back? How do you see things playing out here?
I honestly think things are so toxic and so divided right now that you're going to have the majority of the country swing to the conservative side next election cycle. My fear is a dude like Trump is going to get in, and he's not my kind of candidate because he's not a moderate.
Yeah.
He's the extreme version of a conservative, which is funny because he was
a liberal.
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with, I wouldn't use the word placating because that's a disrespectful term. It's more of catering towards his market, right? His base. And so what that will do is create the justification for getting out into the streets and burning it down, right? It also creates a new narrative for the media to attack him and then double down. So then you got the billionaires who own the networks, their messaging and all the things they're going to do is going to focus on that. And the algorithms of the social media platforms will just push it.
Yeah.
So you have it being created, it being disseminated, and that's like a recipe for civil disaster. I wouldn't say civil war because that's a very different thing. I would say civil disaster. So you're going to have a lot of problems. The way it flushes out is you have to have a moderate come in who actually knows how to unify.
Yeah.
You need leadership.
Yeah.
One thing we don't have in any politician is leadership. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of men and women who have the capability and the aptitude to step up and do that, but they're just not doing it. Like I like to see Jocko run.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the numbers to run as far as popularity is concerned, but he has the capital, he has the popularity, and he has the network.
But hasn't the capital thing gotten out of hand? I mean, what's it cost, like $500 million or $1 billion or something now to run for president?
Yeah, it's the whole political system is broken.
It is,
and everybody knows it is.
I would actually like to see. You mentioned Libertarian earlier. I would really like to see them bust up in the scene pretty hard.
Yeah.
Because I would like for us to get away from. I mean, we might have, we have these other parties, but none of them realistically stand a chance. I mean, it's going to be Republican or Democrat. And I would love to see a third party bust up in the mix, um, and do something. Which I was thinking, you made me think of. I don't remember which book it was. I've read all of Jack Carr's books, and that president, the guy that becomes president, he's a Democrat in the book, but he's like a more conservative minded Democrat, and he's a leader. And it talks about he's like a great president. He's uniting things like that. I mean, Trump was a middle finger to the left. Like that's what when he won. I mean, people were getting tired of the liberal crap, and so Trump was like basically telling them to go to hell. And the conservatives that feel like they had been silenced forever, it was kind of like their chance to be like, well, here's ours back at you. And so that was kind of where he was. Now, do I want to see him? I don't want to see him run again because Trump he's not going to bridge the divide.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know who even could these days. I mean, Jocko, like you said, would be an interesting one to get in the mix. I mean, you think he would have does he have a desire to step into that cesspool?
Well, he said he would if there was a need. And
there's a need, I would feel like.
Yeah, there's profoundly a need. And I think we'll know that in the next year if that's going to be the case. The problem with Trump, one, it's like the same cycle, man. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, let's prop up somebody else, but you'd have to find them now. And then you have to start focusing on making them or positioning them to be popular. And the fact that we are in the position that we are now with Biden, a legacy politician who's been literally in a position or a seat of power for 4 decades, is literally a representation of how incompetent the country is, how incompetent people are, and the disconnect between them understanding a politician and what a politician it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that a politician can serve for 5 decades in any position and, again, be worth $100 million is insanity to me, but we continue to – it's like the definition of a psychotic or being crazy. You just keep doing the same thing, and we'll just see if there's a different result, knowing that we're going to continue to do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's going to have the same outcome.
Yeah. No, that's what Biden, man. I mean, well, used to the politicians went and served, and then they actually went back to the farm or went back to wherever they were from. And that is the thing. It is interesting to look at a politician's net worth before they enter and then after they enter, and you see them blow up. Now, there's one politician I would like to know your thoughts on. I mean, I really liked the guy at first, but I kind of
Crenshaw.
What do you think about Crenshaw?
I don't know what to think, man. I've never met him. I've never talked to him. Some of the things he says, I'm just like, what is he talking about? But I saw that list that came out about the primary investors that are investing the most, and I see him at the top of the list, and I'm like, well, this dude comes from my pedigree from special operations, and the one characteristic of an operator in any service or any branch is that you're broke because you live check to check.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I made more in a day as a contractor than I made in a week in the Army. And
even in the special operations side?
Even in special operations. And even when you deployed downrange, which is what you hope for, and there was an incentive financially, like hazardous duty pay or combat pay is like a couple $100.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like what? And for us in the Army, that was a big deal. Like, holy crap, that might be a car payment, you know? Now it's not a car payment. Now it's like that's like your
one tank of gas or something.
Yeah, that's like a tank of gas. So it's crazy to see somebody who comes from almost nothing to be a politician, and then now his investment portfolio is blowing up. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Because I want to see these dudes step up and serve like they did in the military, because selfless service was the primary value that was instilled upon you. But These dudes are doing it for themselves. And so it's proof that even the best guys with the best intent go into it, something changes them.
Yeah.
And they come out of it and you're like, what? And you got to wonder, like, what's the incentive for a Joe Biden to stay as a politician for 40 plus years?
Yeah.
And it's not service. There's something there. And if you look at his portfolio and his net worth right now, well, that's a good indication. Power, money, greed.
Yeah.
It's sickening.
That's what Dan was, man, when he first got in, like I said, I was pretty excited to see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, he really tarnished himself pretty early on with the red flag laws. And he has tried to like separate himself from that. But I kind of feel like he really somewhat exposed his cards when he did that. And I've asked quite a few veterans that I've had on their thoughts, and most all of them are pretty leery of Crenshaw at this point. Now, one that it seems pretty legit is Eli Crane. Have you had a chance to meet him?
Yeah, I just ran into him last weekend.
Eli seems like a solid dude to me.
Eli won't make it.
Because he's too good of a guy?
He's too good of a dude.
Yeah.
He won't survive. And he even said it. He knows it.
Yeah.
So he'll go in there, things will be screwed up, and he'll be like, screw this, man. It's not worth it. And to me, even in my own interest in politics, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Because the impact and influence I could have outside of that in the private sector is so much more impactful. And I won't be a pawn. I refuse to be a pawn of anybody. No lobbyists, no companies, no individuals, and so or parties. And so I don't fit the mold because you got to be conformist. You have to be a yes ma'am.
Yeah.
And that's not me.
I feel like that's where Tulsi Gabbard kind of rocked the boat. Because I know she was too moderate for the Democrats.
Yes.
And I mean, she really, especially, when she started challenging Hillary Clinton, she basically just, almost disappeared from the forefront of the runnings.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tulsi, I don't know. I've never looked at a lot of her stuff. I know, I am a big fan of my firearms. I'm very staunch on my 2A, and I don't know that she's probably a little liberal for me on the gun side of things. I don't really know. But man, it's interesting times. I've tried to think of who I could see running. I've thought about the guy in Florida, but even he kind of favors Trump in a lot of ways. The Ron DeSantis or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know that he could win. He would be too far to the right.
Yeah, he's a traditional conservative. I mean, he definitely is. And I think he's a Trump supporter, but I don't think he's an advocate.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an advocate in the way that I don't think he would be pushing or okay with him running again.
Yeah.
I think when you look at all the things going on, which are a lot of lies and everything else, it's like bringing back in the CEO when the company went through a whole bunch of drama. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Bring him on as an advisor and then get somebody new in here.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy that we could sit here and think about it and can't come up with one name.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad. I think DeSantis has the highest likelihood and favoritism because of his position as a governor of a state as far as popularity and then policy recognition. Like, he's got a resume of policy where he falls in line with my beliefs. I mean, he's got a common sense approach. He's a Navy veteran with he's a judge advocate for the military.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I like him a lot. I just am afraid that he would be too conservative to win.
Yeah.
I mean, and I like the fact, he stood up to Disney.
Screw Disney, man.
Yeah.
Screw, like, that's what I mean. Like, those companies, man, if I was the governor and I was in a position like his, I'd be kicking those companies out of my state.
Yeah.
And there's some super liberal places in Florida, like Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But the cool thing about DeSantis is, he's super educated. He would wipe the floor with Biden's and anybody that I've ever seen on the Democratic side. I mean, it's insane. Like that Warren chick.
Oh gosh,
Elizabeth Warren.
Pocahontas. Yeah.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
We have a chick who pretended to be a Native American who lied about being a Native American.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that. We got a woman, Hillary Clinton, who literally said, "What difference does it make about our guys in Benghazi and Libya after an ambassador and guys were killed?" It's like, what?
Yeah.
And who deleted all of her emails as a complete security violation, and we're okay.
If a Republican did these things,
They'd be in prison.
Yeah, like
they'd be investigated by the FBI, the DOJ. All that's happening now.
Yeah, dude, it just like I said, man, it's crazy. It has made a lot of people question the integrity. Well, I mean, the FBI. I mean, they lost some serious. I don't know how they can even regain their integrity. And the bad thing, like this past election made a lot of people, now they're leery of the election. I mean, so how do people gain their trust, or what do we even do to protect the integrity, I guess?
Well, these institutions, they're full of dummies.
Yeah.
I mean, well, what do you know about it? Well, I used to work with all of them, and they're full of dummies. And they're very political.
Yeah.
If you haven't looked into the intelligence community known as the IC, which the Director of National Intelligence is in charge of, there's like 17 of them. Like, you think you're going to have redundancy? You think you're going to have fraud, waste, and abuse? Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah.
So the government is bloated. It is not very efficient. It's a broken system. So when you have the newly appointed director in a hearing saying the biggest threat to national security is domestic terrorism from white nationalists, like, what freaking planet are you living on?
Yeah.
Like, what are you even talking about? How about BLM? How about Antifa?
Yeah, the people actually burning down the
the people who literally burned it down.
Yeah.
And I know guys on the inside of the FBI, friends of mine that are HRT guys. Like, I have a lot of friends in these organizations, and they're not being mandated to target and go after real terrorist organizations.
Yeah.
Like, Antifa is a terrorist organization
Yeah.
that wants to burn down the government, who literally burned down our city streets. BLM should be rolled up for financing terrorism.
Yep.
Because they literally finance terrorism. Like, you can't tell me that when the black mayor of Atlanta, Georgia comes out and she's like, you guys need to stop. You just burned down last night 50% black-owned businesses in Atlanta, Georgia,
Yep.
because of your radical ideology. Like, what are we doing? And so that's when you know something's broke. And there's a lot of good people in the FBI, but from the top down, because I know how all these organizations work, it's all political, and I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of them. Look, I have been asked, I've been questioned, I have been a lot of people have been close to me where I think they've been investigating me, and I've had the right questions asked, and it's like, well, how do you know? It's because I've been trained in counter intelligence and national security. Like, I know every tactic there is because I've been in every school.
Yeah.
Probably twice as many schools as these guys who actually work for the agencies have been to, and they've tried to investigate me. It's like, get the hell out of here, guys.
Just because you're on the wrong side?
Well, they think I'm a domestic. I mean, I had an article published about me that called me a domestic terrorist. Former CIA operative teaches. It's all an oxymoron. It's like I'm a government shill, and I'm pro-government, but teaching civilians to go against like, it's all an oxymoron.
That doesn't even make sense.
And it was published by USA Today, republished, and I think they since recanted it. But it's like, what? It's like, holy crap, man! Don't put me in the same boat as these losers out there that are actually doing stupid stuff. I ain't got time for it.
Well, and that also kind of goes back to the responsibility thing we were talking about. Where is the responsibility for these media corporations that they put out this just absolute horse shit, and it can be completely false, and there's no repercussions. That's been kind of one of the comical things for me to watch. Think whatever people want to about the kid in Kenosha that went out there and shot the dudes. I mean, they were attacking him. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be honest, when I watched them, like, I've always heard the old saying, never bring a knife to a gunfight. I'm not going to bring a skateboard to a gunfight.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy, it's kind of cool to see him. I mean, he's suing the hell out of all these companies and like different people.
He'll win.
And I think he win already against.
Or he got payout
Yeah.
already. He's going to beat all these places.
Yeah, and I love to see it. I love to see
Yeah.
it because our media is a huge problem. Like, I just recently had a guy on the show, actually my last episode, he lives in Canada, and I asked him, man, how do you view America? Like, what do you think about America? And he said, dude, I'll be honest, he's like, we turn the TV on or check our phones for the news, and he said, it looks like a game show. Because he said, every day it's like, what chaos is ensuing in America today? And he was like, it'll be like, well, this mass shootings happened, or these people burned down the streets, and this and that, and which, I mean, the media portrays a lot of that. I feel like they make us look much worse than we actually are. We got a lot of just lunatics, but they're in these areas, in Munford where I'm at, nobody's burning down the buildings. And it is funny, it's kind of funny, sad and funny to see they're burning down the places that already support them. Like you're burning down people that are on your side.
Yeah, like the district attorney that literally governs the justice system for the ground you're standing on is on your side.
Yeah.
And you're burning it down. Do it. Like when all those people do that, I'm like, have fun.
Yeah.
I saw there's a protest here in Heber with like 8 people at the playground here saying like my body, my choice, all this stuff. And it's like these kids don't even know what the hell they're protesting for.
No.
And that's the overall problem with this country is we're so entitled and we're so spoiled by the riches and the wealth and the security that we have. We don't know hardship. We don't know resilience. And it skews our perspective. Like nobody knows unless they have a worldly perspective. Nobody knows, and then they virtue signal that our country's burning to the ground. And if you live in a democratically ran city, especially in the heavy metropolitan area, likely it is burning to the ground.
Yeah.
And who do you got to blame? Like, look yourself in the mirror. That's who you got to blame. I mean, the crime statistics of Chicago alone are more over a period of time than war between Iraq and Afghanistan combined, and casualties, and people shot and people killed. And then we want to glaze over that. BLM doesn't want to say anything about that.
Yeah.
They don't have a position on black crime, but they have a position on the very few minority cases of white killing African Americans, and 99% of that's justified.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're again bizarro world, man. That's why I'm not a fan of people. I'm a fan of insulating my network, insulating my friends and family, and then focusing on what we got to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's me living right by Memphis. Every day you turn on the news, every day somebody's been killed.
Oh, I mean, every day
they kill each other every single night. Gangs is like the big thing in there, which it takes me. That even leads me into something else, and I've seen you talk about it. I think you just recently did, and it's that whole community. And I can speak pretty well for Memphis, but that whole community is broken, and this all ties in with the government too. But there's a lack of fathers. A lot of times, actually, grandparents are the ones raising them. It'll be grandma raising them. There's no parents. If there is a parent, she's a single mother, because if she gets married, she loses her benefits. That's one of the craziest things to me. If a mother has a child out of wedlock, she can go get food stamps, welfare. For every child she has, that increases. If she gets married, it stops. What in the hell, man? I mean, it incentivizes the breakdown of this nuclear family, which that was one of the interesting things talking to the guy in Canada. He talked about in there, and solid agreed. One of our biggest issues here is the lack of struggle. And he was like, dude, Canada, he said the nuclear family is still alive where he's at. And he said that's still very much the thing. And he said because most of us here, are trying to not freeze to death for like a large portion of the year. He was like, there's snow on the ground like 8 months out of the year here. And he said, we're trying not to freeze to death. And he said, so we're not worried about like, he said, we're not walking around like, am I a man or am I a woman? Because he's like, because you damn well know, because you got other shit way more important going on.
Yeah, I feel like boredom breeds this subculture.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you don't have anything else to do, so you just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
And, I was raised, my family was broken up early on, but my dad knew he still had to be a dad. My mom knew she still had to be a mom, and so they worked through it. And, I think the biggest detriment, even like on the abortion topic, it's like, where's the father's position in this?
Yeah.
Because you say it's my body, my choice. Well, that was true until you conceived a child.
Yeah.
Because I don't know of any state or federal law that excludes the father from the rights to that child.
Yeah.
In fact, by surname, most states, including Utah, if you're on the birth certificate with the surname, then that person has primary custody of the child.
Yeah.
So if it's a Glover, because my last name is Glover, well, guess who has primary custody? And then you fight through the custody situation. But this idea that women to be strong have to be like dudes, right? Or men to be strong have to be something different.
Yeah.
Is bizarro world, because we all have innate capability, and it's okay to designate duties and responsibilities based on genetics, based on sexual what you identify as male or female. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think it has to do with efficiency. Like, if you're looking to team and knock two birds with one stone, well, it starts with a breakdown of your duties and responsibilities and your task organization. Like, honey, why don't you do this while I'll do this? Hey, if I'm outside and I'm doing this because I'm stronger, my back's stronger, I could sling more hay, I could sling a better hoe, then you could stay inside and then do other things that are going to allow us to thrive together as a family.
Yep.
That idea is out the window. What I've seen, especially being single for a period of time, which is a train wreck, is nobody actually wants committed relationships because they're too selfish.
Yeah.
They want to just do their, like, what do you mean? I can't Netflix and just do my own thing? Then I don't want to be in a relationship. So you got a whole bunch of lonely people. You got mental health issues. You got all these socioeconomic issues. And most of it starts from this breakdown of, like, somehow we think we don't need each other. Somehow it's bad to be a couple, to raise a family.
Yeah.
And that's somehow a traditional value. Like, what? How is it how is monogamy or a relationship a traditional value?
Yeah.
It should just be a normal value.
Yeah.
And I don't like it, man. But again, at the end of the day, I don't even give a shit. People could do what the hell they want. As long as you don't screw with me, that's what a libertarian mindset is.
Yeah.
Do you, I'll do me, and I'll take advantage of the opportunity. You don't want to take advantage? Well, guess what? You won't thrive.
Yeah.
And I will. So that ideology sets us up for success because we both understand we have an equal and fair chance. And if you want to succeed, it has to do with your ability to get up off your ass and do it yourself.
Yeah.
And most people don't want that.
No.
People are lazy. They just don't want it. And that's fine. It just leaves more opportunity for me and my family.
Yeah. No, and I see that it's kind of been funny. I've talked about that with the attack kind of people that come after farmers. I look at it, less than 1% of the U.S. population is farmers. It's like, I think it's right below 1%. And that's what I actually made a little video one time, and I said, guys that have a problem with the way we have to farm. We cannot provide for everybody organically, because there's too many people that aren't pulling any weight. We're having to provide way too much for all these people. And so I put on there, I said, if you want to change that, then start growing a garden, like something simple. Grow a garden, That's less stuff you got to go buy at the grocery store. That'll reduce. You get enough people doing that, you reduce the demand. And then, hey, maybe some things can start to change. Maybe you can kind of shift the dynamic a little bit. But a lot of these, which I do think we're seeing, COVID in a way, I think did kind of make some people take a step back. I
For
know a
sure.
lot more people got into hunting. I feel like I've seen a lot more people growing gardens. And that's all things that, hey man, that's great. Like if people get into that, I think getting into gardening is really cool for people because then they can go stick a seed in the ground. You know, Mike Bloomberg said farming's easy, man. You just stick a seed in the ground, it comes up. It is what it is. So these guys, they can go stick a seed in the ground, and they learn about, hey, you know, it actually takes a little bit. I gotta fertilize this. I gotta chop the weeds out. Like I gotta actually take care of this crop. But it's good, and then they provide, and it's something cool. It's like rewarding in that to see that. And I feel like with Fieldcraft, these are all elements that y'all push. I feel like in a way. I mean, you're in a sense, it's the way I would almost look at what y'all are doing with Fieldcraft. It's almost like returning people. It's almost returning us back to how we're supposed to be. Like that's how I look at what Fieldcraft is doing. You know, used to people were capable because they had to be capable. You know, you had to know how to grow this food. You had to know how to do these elements because it was essential to your survival.
Yeah, it's like the alien. If you look at the aliens, the stereotypical alien, he's got like a big old head, and he's got like a skinny body, and he's got these digits with these very like sensitive pads, so he could do all the technology and the integration. And it's funny because that depiction was before we even had technology. It's the way we look at technology today in ones and zeros. So if you look at that and you really think about it, the evolution or de-evolution of man is us outsourcing everything.
Yeah.
We don't have to lift a finger. I mean, we could probably just lift our minds, and that's how we get stuff accomplished because everything could be tied to an application, a tether technology that does the work for us.
Yeah.
And the detriment in that is you're becoming more vulnerable to just basic stuff. I mean, we talk about massive shootings being a systemic cancer in America. Based on the numbers, it's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, 40,000 people a year die in vehicle accidents. Why is that not news? Because the news doesn't pay attention to it. But I know in a county right down the road, 1,000 people have died in the last 5 years. And you think about that, it's like, what? Like, what's happening? Mental health. They're showing a direct correlation to technology and especially the advancement of social media algorithms.
Yeah.
And mental health collapse, especially amongst teenagers. And you don't have to look at a pie chart or a graph to determine whether or not this is happening. Just look in your own households.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel blessed because it's not about discipline. It's about addiction. I do not have an addictive personality. My entire family has been known to have addictive personality. I have alcoholics, I have drug addicts, obesity, all these addictive traits, and I got none of them. I chewed tobacco for a few months. I was like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
I could drink alcohol and not touch it. I don't have an addictive personality, and I'm not addicted to anything. So now I realize when I take my phone and I'm like, yeah, I don't need this. And I put it down. I'm not doing it because I'm like, oh, I don't need this, and I'm shaking. But most of the world is doing that.
Yeah.
And I see it in friends. I see it in family. I've seen people who work for me, who no longer work for me, destroy their lives over social media. Destroy their lives. And it's like, what's the one attribute? Is it their addictive personalities? Is it all these things? No, it's social media, period. And so we are destroying our lives from the inside out, and we are de-evolving our society. And I made a promise. Well, I made a promise to myself. I don't think I even made it. I don't even think I've talked about this. But next year, starting January 1, I'm not going to have a cell phone. I might not have a cell phone, period. I have 15,000 emails on my phone right now. I'm not checking any of them. You know what? You want to get a hold of me? Don't do it through email because I don't give a shit. I'm going to navigate my life the way I want because I have no obligation to anybody except my family. And that phone, I'm going to put down potentially indefinitely. And if you need to contact me, you can contact my PA and email her. She'll go through the email process. You want to talk to her, then she'll have a conversation with me about the conversation that you had with her.
Yeah.
But I want to see if that improves my life. And I guarantee you, because I've already done it in segments, it's going to improve my life. Not that I want to encourage people to just leave their phone because there are benefits, but stop. Because if we don't focus on this and building relationships, and I think it's not even about preparedness. My company's not. It's about getting back to basics and building relationships. Yeah, that's what we need more of.
Well, yesterday, my wife, when we were walking down, like I said, the historic Main Street or whatever, I actually kind of caught myself noticing, because, I mean, to me, this is a new area for me, so I'm like, man, I'm just checking it all out. Like, I'm like, man, this is awesome. Look at that. And I was barely on my phone at all yesterday. I think responded to some text messages, but it actually made me notice. I would see, and typically they were teenagers, look like be teenagers or so, walking. And I mean, I'm like, looking at the area, how awesome it is, the scenery. And these people, they were in their phone, like they weren't even aware of the world around them. And I see that, and I'm like, man, hell, there could be a dude with like a freaking flamethrower up here torching the place, and they'd probably walk past him.
Well, they pick it up, turn it around, and they would capture
video.
it.
Yeah. No, and I mean we are the same. Like, especially with my kids, I'm a big advocate of imagination. Like, I think a kid ought to have a good imagination. I'm a grown man and I have a good imagination, and that's because, when I was a kid, I was playing outside, I was playing in the woods, playing war and doing stuff like that all the time. My kid's 4 years old, boy, girl. My son, he's got, which again, farming, so he's eat up with farming. He has little tractors, man. He's planting. Like, I'll come home from working and I'm like, what'd you do today? Well, I planted some corn. I'm like, that's what my son. He's like, I planted some corn. I got to get my combine ready. And I'm like, all right, man, I hear you. And I love that. Like,
that's so awesome.
Yeah, I don't want to come home and be like, what'd you do today? Well, I played Grand Theft Auto for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, that's, I mean, and that's what man, it's just, I'll go out to eat. We'll go out to eat. We try to do date nights, and it's sad to me, man. We went out to eat one night, and there was a family. They were at the table beside us. It was a man, a woman, and a daughter. I'm assuming it was husband, wife, and their kid. She was probably 8 years old, and she was just talking up a storm. The mom or the woman, she had gone to go get something. The little girl was just talking up a storm to the dad. And he was just looking at his phone. I mean, and she was telling him, you could tell she was like excited what she was telling him. And the dude was so in his phone, he never even acknowledged it. And about 10 minutes later, I glanced over there, and all three of them were on a phone. And like no conversations was being had. And I'm like, that like breaks my heart to like see. I mean, that little girl, like those are moments you never get back. And I mean, just the phone, it is an addiction. Social media, it's set up to be addictive. It is in a way where it's one, you get that dopamine hit when somebody likes your post. It's crazy, man. And in the podcast world, like doing this, I've had to learn to navigate it. I try to use it as really just a marketing tool at this point, because it's great for marketing, but it's like, I've thought a lot. If I didn't have a podcast, I think I would just delete it all. Like, I've thought seriously.
It might be the happiest day of your life.
It would be, man. It really would be.
Yeah, I'm getting rid of it all, man. I who I was inspired by? It wasn't my idea, but Sebastian Younger, who's a author and made the documentary Strepo, but wrote all these wonderful books. And the last one he wrote was War. There's one right after that, but that wasn't very good. But he decided to get off his phone because it was just destroying his life, and he's got like a flip phone. I don't even want that.
Yeah.
I don't want a means for people to communicate to me because I'm so overwhelmed by communication. If I want to communicate with somebody, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah.
And when people communicate with me, typically is because they want something, which is part of the nature of owning a business, and I get that. But I could have somebody else manage that. And what I need to focus the rest of my days on is giving my attention to the ones that I love.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that because I've been too busy taking care of everybody else. I'm tired of taking care of everybody else. I'm tired of being selfless and doing everything seemingly for nothing.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's, you know, like you serve in uniform and you accept that you're not going to get anything. You just do your thing. I've earned my place. And so, you know, people criticize me and people say something, but I won't even be around to hear it. It's like, does a bear shit in the woods? Yeah, I don't like. You could run your mouth in an echo chamber that nobody hear. You could make the post. You could talk and make the comments. I don't care because I'll never read it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the contrast to that is everybody else is so enthralled with virtual reality that they forget about the world they live in.
Yeah.
And so like that, the thing with that kid and the parent, that will force that person, that kid, to go inside their phone and look for an alternate reality. They'll find a place that they think is home, and it's not home. It's temporary, and it's painful, and it's full of drama, and it potentially can kill them.
Yeah.
But they'll go there, and then they'll forget about everything else in their life. And that habit, which is part of the algorithm, part of the behavior, will transcend across generations. And what is the detriment? I think it's survival. I think it's resilience. And something will happen catastrophically, and all those people who have been giving up and outsourcing their entire lives will pay the ultimate sacrifice for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. I just know it could be as easy as a famine. It could be as easy as another pandemic, and people will pay. And who will succeed is those that are resilient, who have a deliberate plan to get out of that.
Yeah.
Which is me, and my family, and hopefully everybody that I communicate with.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of weird because it's like I'm countering my own business by creating a business plan that demodels and dethrones the position of popularity in my business. It's like, I'd rather you write me a letter. You want to talk to me? Sit down and write a letter.
Yeah.
Holy crap, what do you mean? Mike only communicates by writing letters? Like, my posts are literally going to be handwritten. And then my PA will take a picture of it because I ain't.
Yeah.
Like, you could take a picture of me and you can post this and take a picture of that. But I ain't doing anything. I'm not going to touch a piece of technology.
Yeah. Man, I think it'll be really cool to see the results, like how you feel after doing that for a while, because I'm sure, man, that there is the level of happiness, things like it'll be rewarding. And I've heard, like, I think they said Christopher Nolan, you know, that made The Dark Knight and Batman Begins and all them. I think they said he carries a flip phone. Like, they said he's insanely hard to get a hold of because he's just not into it. Which it's, you know, man, I tell you, the tough thing in your shoes, man. I mean, you have a powerful voice and powerful reach on there, but it's interesting to see them how you're getting silenced on the same hand. Because I saw your post the other day. You shared like some bullets and then a pistol post, and the pistol post got I guess banned or blocked or something. And all of that just further shows me, like, dude, it's, you know, there is some upper power or whatever. I don't even want to call them upper power, the government, whoever's pulling these strings. They've got some sort of agenda, and it's just weird. It's a weird thing.
So weird. I had a picture of my bullets in my hand, 10 mil versus 9 mil for self-protection. Ben Walker Trading Company, which is my family's company. I posted a picture of a old pioneer woman holding a shotgun. It doesn't even look like I think it's probably like a double barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
And that got flagged as being inciting violence. And then they put like a filter over it because it was a dangerous post.
Where you have to like click to view the photo?
You have to click to view the photo. And I had another girl that I follow. She had taken a picture of 3 old, probably 20 gauge shotguns on a wall that were all rusted out.
Yeah.
That was decorative, inciting violence. And, you know, whether it's an algorithm identifying the shape of a gun or them just flagging everything that potentially is a gun as being inciting violence. That's the nature of these fear-mongering that's going on in the algorithm.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, they own the algorithm. They own the platform, so whatever. I get the private sector version of that. My team that's responsible for managing my account is in India.
Really?
Yeah, India. Like one of the poorest nations, the
Yeah.
most densely populated and poorest nations on the freaking planet Earth, where like the ghetto was invented. You know? And it's like, and that's the team that's managing Americans and filtering and suppressing them. So, I mean, that only
is there like an Instagram headquarters or metaverse headquarters in India?
There is Facebook outsources all of their stuff. Why? Because it's cheap labor.
Yeah.
And it's comical that like I'll get suppressed for something I say, whether it's a social issue or political issue, but the company that's suppressing me is outsourcing their labor to India, China.
Where they're making like $1 an hour or something crazy.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all disappointing. And more of a reason for me to go, I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, what I will continue to do is like you're doing as a podcast. Because I think, hey, you want to hear me or you want to be influenced by me or you want to like tune in to what I'm doing? Listen to me articulate in long form what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Don't read a highlight, a few words that are going to misinterpret for most people anything that I have to say that needs complexity. Like I think that's one of the biggest issues of social media as a whole is we're reading everything in short form clickbait.
Well, and a lot of people never get past the headlines.
Never.
You know,
Like
like
they're formulating their opinion right off the headline.
Yeah, like you said, that when they wrote the article about you that ended up was crap, people would just read the headlines and they'd go crazy with it.
Exactly, yeah.
It's exactly. I think I read something that said you have 3 to 5 seconds to hook a person's attention, which it's kind of a weird parallel because I also think the long form is making a comeback because it's like, you know, the presidential debates. That's got to be one of the dumbest things that we do because they ask them a question, and it'll be a complex question about the bearings of the country. And it's like
30 seconds.
Yeah, you have 30 seconds to answer this question. And all that 30 seconds actually is, it gets turned into 30 seconds of attacking the other candidate. And then the other candidate's like, well, I want a chance to respond. And then they're just shitting on the other guy. And so that was one thing I would really wish would have happened. You know, Rogan actually asked, he said he would host, like having, I guess, Biden and Trump on.
Nobody wanted to do it.
No, I mean, I think Trump was like, I'll do it. Biden's team was like, absolutely not. Because they had to keep that dude hidden, man. If they don't have something to read. But I do think people like they want uncensored, they're tired of the polished bullshit, I think. I mean, I really feel like a lot of them are. You know, there are still some, man, like Biden. What did he say the other day? Oh, he said the economy is stronger than it's ever been. Like, he got up there and was like, we're making a comeback, we're bringing jobs back and all this stuff, and people cheered. And, like, I watched that, and I'm like, surely no dumbass believes this. The problem is Biden, and well, I don't know if Biden knows, but his team knows that's bullshit what he's saying. But they know that if he says it, there's a lot of dummies that are going to be like, hey, the economy's going great. And they're going to go, you know, like if somebody says something about gas prices, they'll say, nah, the economy's going great, just because they just believe anything that they say.
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, what's sad is all of that opinion is formulated in small segments of media tethered to your phone.
Yep.
So the phone's the start point for all that. And, I always say, like, hey, if all your problems go away when you put down your phone, then you got your answer.
Yeah.
And I would probably venture to say that most of people's problems are literally derived from the information they receive through their phone. And whether that's partition information, whether that's media, propaganda, whether it's them comparing themselves to people on social media, it's all a problem.
Yeah.
And the more we could put that thing down and the more balanced our conversations will be, the better off we'll be. And I think you're right. I think long-form content is making a comeback because people are bored.
Yeah.
I mean, people, for the first time, are going, they're looking at liberal headlines, and they're going, you guys are full of shit. And you see all the attack, and you're like, holy crap. You see Biden post something, whether it's from the presidential social media channels or from media, and people are like, this is bullshit. Like, you're so full of shit. So I mean, even when I see comments that are in favor of Biden, I look at those and go, those have to be bots.
Yeah.
Because unless you live in a cave in Afghanistan, you've seen the incompetence of that person. And that's the person who's running our country.
Yeah.
If I had a commander in special operations at any point in my career that is fragile. I mean, I saw somebody's post the other day, and they said the age brackets of 70 to 80 have the least amount of representation in being employed in America because of the cognitive decline.
Yeah.
Like I can't have a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran teach in flat range because there's like a likelihood there would be some kind of cognitive decline that could lead to
safety issues,
eye-hand coordination issues, just whatever it is. It's a liability. But we have that person running our country. Oh, man. Oh, it's sad.
It is sad.
3 more years, by the way, of that.
Dude, that's what blows my mind. Like, when I look at what is happening, I'm like, this is only 1 year into the mix.
We haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
If people, I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm selling my company. But if people if people haven't looked at being better prepared or being more self-reliant, man, are you behind?
Yeah.
If you don't know how to plant a garden, I was watering my garden this morning, tending my chickens this morning. If you're not even thinking about building self-reliance out into your life, then you're wrong, and you're going to be set up for failure.
Yeah.
Something's going to break. It's going to be logistically related. It's going to be oil and gas. It's going to be the combination of that and national security. Something's going to break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too, man. Now you kind of mentioned it before we wrap up here. Let's go down on Fieldcraft. Let's talk a bit about that. Because it's funny, man. The way I like to do these podcasts, I really go into them kind of just organically. I like to let them just unfold how they unfold.
Same.
And I mean, it's been a very politics heavy, kind of world heavy or America heavy, but it's been good conversation. I think it's stuff that people
for sure.
People need to hear. So let's talk about Fieldcraft. Like, how did you get the idea for Fieldcraft? When did that come to you? Where did that all start?
Well, I was a contractor, and I think I was in Pakistan at the time, and I was exhausted, man. I mean, I was exhausted of just working for the man and all the politics that were sickening to me being involved. And I wanted to start something for myself, but I also wasn't just interested in tactics.
Yeah.
I mean, people are so enthralled by this stuff. I get no kick out of any of that stuff. Like, I've been a weapons specialist my entire special operations career. I was in the infantry. Like, I've lived by the gun every day. A Colt single action army is more interesting to me than a tactical AR-15. Like, I don't give
the history.
The history, it's like I'm over it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about the tactical component of it. I teach, and I love teaching, but I'm interested in it because I love teaching.
Yeah.
Not because I'm like a diehard, like, oh, this gun is like so amazing. Like, they're all the same.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's more about the ability to connect with people and then have this purpose. So survival was a genre I was interested in that was very different. But everybody thinks survival is austere wilderness survival.
Yeah.
And I can give a crap about that. I mean, I'm not an expert at that. People are like, well, tell me how to make a fire. I'm like, I try to do a bow drill, and I suck at it, and it's frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
But if you're also rubbing a bow drill together in the wood line trying to save yourself, you have screwed up thoroughly.
Yeah.
That's why I carry 100 Bic lighters in my car. You know, it's like there are things that you could do planning-wise, rehearsal-wise, mindset-wise to be best prepared. So that's why I wanted to create a culture around preparedness, because that's what we did in special operations. We weren't experts at any one thing. We were jack of all trades. We had a culture that instilled values. It allowed us to be physically fit, think about planning contingencies, paying attention to equipment, rehearsing and training. And then when it came to the worst case scenario, we were best prepared.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do selfishly, is start like a culture around it.
Well, it seems like you've done a pretty dang good job. Because Fieldcraft is, man, I mean, it's an awesome business. I mean, even the store here, like I said, I was pretty stoked to get to come to Fieldcraft HQ. And I had Kevin Estella on the show. I guess I had him on last year.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin's awesome. And, dude, they're just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And so I knew then, I was like, man, this is a cool company. But I completely get it, man. I mean, that's like I always feel weird when I travel, especially by plane, because I haven't mastered the like traveling with weaponry. And I mean, back home, I usually have 2 knives. On the farm, I got a pocket knife that I mean, it's like a butter knife because I dig in the ground, I'm checking seed depth with it. But then I carry an Amtac Northman. And Bill had talked about a fixed blade, and I got into carrying it. I love carrying that thing. I basically never use it because I want it to be like a razor blade if I ever have to. But Bill was telling me, see, it has a mag striker on it. And he said people were bitching about the mag striker. They were like, why do I need this? I'm never going to need a mag striker. And he was like, it doesn't take up any extra room. And that's what I'm like, that's an awesome component to have.
Dual purpose.
So, I mean, it's interesting, dude. I think people have gotten so far removed. I mean, things are so great that if a pandemic happened, I mean, hell, toilet paper like got hard to find, and people lost their shit. And I'm like, this is over toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hell, man, I'm a farmer. I'm shitting outside more than I shit in the house half the time when we're in the field. It's like we're not panicking over toilet paper.
Insane. But
that just shows where we're at. So, I mean, with Fieldcraft, like when you started to build the company, was it something, did it just really take off? Because you think a lot of people were like, man, or was it kind of a struggle?
It was a struggle, man. I mean, nobody cares about the stuff that we're teaching unless they've been in that situation. It's like the anti-gun person. Like you're anti-gun until you become a victim of violence, and then you're like pro-gun.
Yeah.
And you know, we're optimistic, but we're also realist about the future. And you know, I don't think nobody is as well-rounded as my position, from tactical to strategic to the academics of learning crisis management and having a degree in it or being educated in it, and understands kind of the way the world operates outside of our little spheres of influence or our bubbles. And so my whole thing is advocating for this idea that, like, hey man, you don't have to go out of your way and make your life really inconvenient to be prepared.
Yeah.
It takes some minor initial inconveniences, whether that's an investment or time. But what I've realized about the progressive nature of the culture and my business personally is that once people are on board and they see how positive an impact it could be, because they go, man, I thought all these prepper people were paranoid.
Yeah.
Which is still, like, I heard Rogan say that, and I hope to get on Rogan's podcast soon and just explain how it works. But that's not how psychology works.
Yeah.
Psychology works where you learn the skill set, you become more confident, and then the paranoia is replaced with an actual skill set, with confidence. And when you see that change in people, it gives them something to hold on to, which
Yeah.
I think is the overall point. That was not the intent originally.
Yeah.
And it resonates with people because you see people come together and troves, hundreds of people per meeting and engagement. And, we have this group called American Contingency, where we created a community-based group where it's about empowering people to link up in each other's backyards and know thy neighbor, because you probably don't know them anyway.
Yeah.
And build a network of being better prepared so you can help each other out in the worst case scenario. That is not a novel idea, but now it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to have my kids on my lap and tell them about the days when I grew up playing street hockey with palm sticks from palm trees, kicking around a tennis ball, because that's what we had. We didn't have video games. We didn't have computers, and that's going to blow their mind.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but it's the way of, I think it's the way of man and the evolution. But I want to be that fallback point for people, and if as long as people realize that it's still important to stay tethered to that fallback, then we'll be okay.
Well, and it's kind of the way I look at it. Like, I've got a good buddy that does jiu-jitsu. He's big into jiu-jitsu, and he's told me, like, it's kind of funny when people look at a prepper and say they're paranoid, because it's like, my buddy's he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I mean, he's pretty damn good at it, and we go into a place, and I've asked him a little bit about, like, we actually went into Firehouse Subs one day, and this guy came up and was like, "Hey, man, what's up?" And, like, shook his hand, and they knew each other from the gym. And the dude was, like, the most unassuming human I've ever seen in my life. Like, I would have seen this guy and been like, zero threat level from this dude. And we got to the table, and my buddy said, "That guy is a savage." And I was like, "That dude?" And he said, "He is a savage." And I was like, "Man," and he said he's a black belt. He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Fold you up like a pretzel.
Dude, yeah, and that's what, and he actually said, Jocko calls them nerd assassins, and he was like, that is pretty much what that guy is.
Yeah.
But he said, like, having that, he's not training in jiu-jitsu because he's paranoid. Like, he's not worried, but he said now he goes into areas and he's like, "Man, I have complete confidence that if something were to happen, I can pretty well handle anyone." Like, he said, if somebody came in here, he said, "I'm not paranoid." He was like, "Hell, I'm way more." He's like, "I'm less paranoid than I ever would have been because I'm prepared."
Yeah, and that's common. It's common sense, but common sense isn't always common amongst people.
Yeah.
I think the idea of getting prepared is intimidating for people because it exploits their own weaknesses, their own character flaws, their own insecurities that they're not willing to confront. And I think it goes back to personal responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
Nobody in this country culturally now wants to be held accountable. They don't want people calling them out. They get crazy. They get insane. They get mad. They get angry. That's the community that I come from, where it's constant assessment, it's constant vulnerability, and that's healthy for you. I mean, if you want to improve as a person, you need a culture like that to belong to. You don't need to just wake up, feel accomplished every single day, become complacent, become weak, and then have reality punch you in the face, maybe literally.
Yeah.
And that's the society that we're raising our kids in. And, I think it's all about getting back to basics. And a lot of the basics come from our natural tendencies. And, when you look at a lot of the ways and reasons people die, period, it has a lot to do with not paying attention.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pay attention in a world where your attention is constantly monopolized by corporations. And that's hard to get away from.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all of that. All of this is not from a value or a virtue. It all comes from money.
Yeah.
And it's all capitalism, 2.0. And I refuse to be a victim to it. But I have the discipline to go, I don't even know that's a discipline. I don't have the addictive personality to not be tethered to it. I can go, yeah, I'm good. Other people, I see them, they go, I'm good. Oh.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, man, like just put that damn thing down. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't because they're already too far gone. I've lost friends in business, friends in friendships and relationships because of social media.
Yeah.
I've seen them cheat on their spouses. I've seen them destroy their marriages. I've seen them leave their wives, leave their entire families over that damn cell phone.
It's easy. It's easy.
It's the easy button.
You got, I had this conversation with somebody not long back. Like, used to, if a dude wanted to, like, have a relationship with a woman, he had to confront her in person. Nowadays, man, you have access to just about anybody at your fingertips.
Yeah, scroll left or scroll right.
Yep.
And it's sad. I mean, that's actually really sad because some of the women that I've dated, their mindset was, I just don't like the way you do that something, and so they'll just scroll left, and you're like, okay, well, you never gave me the opportunity to communicate. We've been dating for a while,
Yeah.
and it's unusual that you think that's a temporary problem, but you're willing to throw away an entire life to just swipe right on somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's figuratively, but that's technically what happened. And I'm like, man, since when did we become such ignorant and selfish people? And that's what it is. It's like, why would I have to worry about trying to build or work through a relationship with somebody when I could just find somebody else tonight?
Yeah.
I can go on a dating app and have somebody in my bedroom tonight.
Yeah.
And that's, again, another problem with our society that stems back to the family unit. How about we just take the time and it's like that, was it Dierks Bentley song? It's like, hold on. It's like, why do I have to, or even better, A Southern Man by Alan Jackson, where he says, what's the words he uses? He says, always proud of what I had.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always proud of what I had. I don't need. I got the same damn Jeep I've had since 1999 that I bought. I have the same diesel pickup truck that I bought in '08, and I'll improve upon those things and invest in them because I don't see the need to continue to buy more new stuff and get rid of the things that have been with me since the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's a material analogy, but I mean it with people.
Yeah.
Like, the people who have been in my life since the very beginning have always been there. The people who have come and gone, it's their temporary problem.
Yeah.
Because they're just not they're like, they lose it and they freak out and they have to move on. It's like, all right, man, do you?
Yeah.
And then years later they come back to me like, I should have never left. I should have never did that. I'm like, that's on you, bro.
Yeah.
Ship has sailed.
Yeah.
By the way, because I don't have time for people like you.
Yeah.
It's sad, man.
Well, that was one of the cool things, man. Like, with podcasting, I've had some opportunities, and like, whenever I reached out to you to do the show, I talked to Krista.
Yeah.
And she was like, you can do it digitally, or she said, if you want to, you could come out here to Utah and do it here. And I was like, well, hell yeah, man, I'm going to Utah. And so, because it is so much better. I mean, digitally, it is, I've had great episodes digitally with people and connect with them well, but it's nothing like that face-to-face. You mentioned that with Fieldcraft, building these units now where people meet at somebody's house or their backyard and they work there. I mean, there's just something about that interaction. Like, that's one of the reasons why I think the country is so divided. Man, it's so easy to be a dick online.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot harder for a lot of people to do it in person. I mean, people will talk crap to somebody online that would crush them in real life because there's no chance of any interaction. And honestly, people are way more polite in person than they would be online. Mm-hmm. And it's all that same thing. And so, man, I mean, I'm with you 100% on, we can try to break away from that cycle of just got to be in this phone all the time. And like you said, the lack of paying attention. That's what I think about when I see the people and they're just in the phone the whole time. That's the crap that I worry about the society. I'm raising my kids the way I was raised, so they're going to be they might be weird, but I hope they're weird. Like I honestly hope that they're weird compared to today's time.
Yeah, I want my kids to be weird too. Then I don't. Personal relationships, it's personal because it's personal.
Yeah.
A lot of people think they're followers or they're friends. It's like personal relationships, intimate relationships where you have to take the time to bridge the gap. I don't think our youth or people anymore know what that even means.
Yeah.
And that's sad. The most impactful thing that I've seen through this company doing is bringing people together in real time. And even then, it's a conversation. It's like, hey, guys, you guys are here. Build relationships. And they're like, huh? And you got to force them to.
Yeah.
Because people don't know how to socially interact. I mean, I shake guys' hands, and they go, oh, he's shaking my hand all firm and look at me in the eye. Like, he's weird. And it's very foreign to people nowadays because most of their interactions are through a direct message.
Yeah.
And I almost, exclusively in building relationships default to like, hey, you can call me or hey, you can come here, but I'm not small talking you over the damn phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's the only way they know how to communicate. It's literally a crutch.
Yeah.
And when they get in front of real people and they have to talk, it screws them up. And I think, that's going to bite us in the ass one day, but it's not going to bite my family in the ass because my kids are social.
Yeah.
Because I teach them how to talk. I talk with them.
Yeah.
I ask them about their day. And they're only 3 years old and they converse. They're like, I had a good day.
Yeah.
And, we eat dinner. We sit down at a dinner table.
Yep.
And I force them to sit down and turn off the TV and we talk. And they're 3. It's like, well, why would you do that with 3-year-olds? Why would I not do that with 3-year-olds?
Exactly.
And so, these things are, you can call them you could tether them to any kind of value system. But I think it's the basic necessities of just being decent as a human being and maintaining some form of like, hey, man, we are not lost because so many people are.
Yeah. Oh, my wife, she gets a kick out of it. Like she's like, you can talk to a brick wall, is what she tells me all the time. And we were just walking the street yesterday, and like we meet past people. Somebody be out watering their yard, and I just am like, man, how you doing? And some of them you can tell it almost is weird. They're they're like, good, man, how are you? And I'm like, doing great. like that was, we actually went on our honeymoon when we got married back in 2015. We went to New York City.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
big, bold move.
That's what she was like, let's go somewhere tropical. And we got married in January, too, so dead of winter. And I said, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to go somewhere I've never been, maybe never will go back. And I was like, let's go to New York City. I had never even been to, like, a big city. So we go to New York City, and again, I mean, it'd be a homeless person. It'd be like a street vendor. Every one of them, I was like, how's it going, man? And like my wife would be like, would you stop talking to everybody? And I'm like, that's just the way that I'm programmed. And like
people were like, huh, what do you want?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I had one guy, the funniest one, man. He was a street vendor. He had like, I guess CDs. At the time, people still were listening to CDs. He was handing out CDs. I don't know if he was trying to be a rapper.
His mixtape, man. His mix CD.
I guess so. And he said, hey man, here, which I mean, I've got I guess a pretty decent Southern drawl. I don't notice it, but I have people tell me I do. And so we're walking by, and if you ever talk to the street guys, I mean, they're like, man, trying to get you to buy something. I don't care.
They're hustling.
They are, but they're a human being. I'm going to talk to them. Mm-hmm. And so this dude's like, you want these? And I said, nah, man, I appreciate it. And he goes, damn. And I said, what? And he goes, you sound like you know how to work a scope, and I ain't talking about a microscope. And I just started laughing.
That's so funny.
I was like, that might be the best like random street compliment I've ever gotten.
You sure know how to work a scope.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know Kentucky windage.
Yes.
I'm a fan of that.
So, dude, I see a human being. I mean, that's what I see.
Yeah, I like that, man. I actually like New York City. When I went,
it was fun.
It was very interesting. The food was good. The
food was great.
The amount of people and diversity that you ran into in New York City was really cool culturally, and I appreciated it. And it's the last place on the planet Earth I would live.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Me too.
Where it's like the landscape is all vertical.
Yeah.
Where you're like, there's not much here, and you look up and you're like, there's an entire landscape that you don't even see unless you look up. I'm not interested in that, but it's got unique cultural diversity and little quirks about it. That's really neat.
The history. I love the history.
It's so cool, man.
Yeah, that's how I was.
Yeah.
Like I had people that were like, most of them had never been to New York City. But
Yeah.
They were like, you're going to hate New York City. They were
Yeah.
like, I had several people that were like, oh man, it's nothing but assholes in New York. And again, most of them had never been to New York. And we had a great time.
Same.
Everybody was super nice.
Everybody was super nice.
They were. And
everybody I ran into was super nice.
I don't know that I met one New Yorker. Like everybody I would
Yes.
talk to, they were not from New York.
Yeah, I got to see the fire station across from the World Trade. I went and talked to some of the firefighters at night, and then went to see the memorial. And then I ran into a girl who was from like Haiti or something like that.
Yeah.
And she was crying. And I asked her what was going on, and she was on 9/11. She was taking her kids to daycare right down the road from the World Trade.
Oh, dang.
And so she was just reminiscing, and we struck a conversation. A dude whose dad was in the Army, who met his mom in Korea. Product of service and the occupation in Korea, and then also her situation where she was an immigrant and was in New York like everybody else. And people forget that's like what makes America great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the best part of America, but we don't focus on those stories, man. We focus on the Trump hearings.
Yep.
And we focus on abortion advocates. And it's like we're focusing on all the wrong things, which is sad.
Well, I've always said, man, it's not – the government is not what makes America great. I mean, it's the people in America.
100%.
And, that's how, we kind of got sidetracked, or I guess a little lost. We were going to go to the World Trade Center Memorial. And we walked down – I don't even remember now, but we walked down into like this corridor. We turned, we were walking a little bit, and we started passing like security guys with like M4s, and then we'd pass people in suits with briefcases, and we actually went in the new World Trade Center. We had gotten turned around,
really,
and we were like I told my wife, I said, I think we're in the wrong spot. Like, so we turned around and got out, but I mean, nope. We obviously had not crossed any like security barrier because we weren't checked or nothing. But I just knew, I was like, man, these dudes are prepared.
Some serious stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
But I recommend everybody go, man, because we went through the memorial, the museum of 9/11. Man, that was heavy.
It was
really
heavy, man, super heavy. That whole place is kind of humbling.
It is.
I think more people need to be reminded of September 12th versus September 10th. A lot of people have September 10th mindsets.
Yeah.
And we forget where we've come as a country. We've come a long way.
Well, I've kind of griped that it's like we've forgotten what it means to be an American.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, you see TV shows where they kind of cut down Americans and it's like frowned upon to be an American. And people come here and they don't want to be an American, but they come here.
50 people just died in a truck, a semi-tractor trailer.
I saw that. Was that in Texas?
With no media attention, by the way.
Yeah.
50 people, because it's an immigration issue. Nobody wants to touch that because it makes the Biden White House look bad. But it's like that's how desperate these human beings are to get to our country.
Yeah.
And then we got Biden and, most of the Democratic Party bad-mouthing our country. AOC and all these lunatics bad-mouthing our country. Well, go back to your origins then.
Yep.
Go to sub-Saharan Africa and see how that works out for you. See how many lattes you can get from their Starbucks in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
It's disappointing that that's kind of that culture now. It's to be anti-American.
It's cool.
It's cool, especially for professors teaching young, impressionable minds. That's the cool thing to do. Like these protesters in Heber City. Like, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
You have no idea you have no understanding of the political situation, the ramifications for the sign that you're holding. You're only doing it because you think it's cool.
Yep.
You're only doing it because
They'll
it's
take some pictures, they'll video it, put it up on Instagram. They'll get some clout out of the whole thing.
That's it, because they're advocates.
Yep.
Yeah, good job holding the sign to nobody who gives a shit.
Yeah, maybe AOC will retweet them or share it or something.
Yeah. How about you go to school or go get a job?
Yeah.
Even better yet, go get a job.
Well, it's just part of the craziness. That's like what was her name? Greta Thunberg. She's like 12, and it's like we're letting her talk about the environment and stuff, and I'm like, she don't even have any bearings on anything, and she's the face of.
She's
the face it's the same. It's all kind of crazy because this is the party that's in favor of killing babies and killing children, but they want to use a child as their face. To me, that's like the bad guys overseas wanting to use a hospital to set up because they know Americans won't attack. We're not going to bomb a hospital, like kind of thing. 100%. So it's a weird tactic, but they know the tactic, I guess.
Yeah, that one's a weird one. I think she was on the cover of Time or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Greta-zilla or Thunberg-zilla. I've seen some funny ones. I've used her meme a few times, the how dare you. Like, that's been a pretty good meme.
Just insane. I can't even see that girl's face and take her seriously.
I can't either. I can't either. Well, Mike, man, it's been fun.
I appreciate you coming out. It's a big deal, traveling all the way here to do a podcast, man. I enjoyed it. I like podcasts. I ain't stopping. I'll stop the phone, but I'm not going to stop the podcast. The long-form version of conversations, because this is important. I think it's important for people to know who is running a business.
Yep.
If you're following somebody, to kind of figure out who that person is. Working yourself through kind of complex ideas and thoughts, which isn't. It's just a conversation.
Yeah.
But people think it's complex.
It is, but it's actually natural. That's what we're supposed to do.
Imagine putting Biden on a podcast for an hour.
I would love to.
You would not get much out of it.
Would be the most entertaining podcast.
Dude,
I'd get him talking about corn pop.
He'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
He'd fall asleep on you.
Yeah. Where can everybody go see what y'all are up to?
Just Fieldcraft Survival everything. I mean, I won't direct people to Instagram because I won't have it. I'll have it, but I won't be running it. But you can go to all my stuff. If just Google Fieldcraft, but it's fieldcraftsurvival.com is the website. And then AmericanContingency.com is our group page, which has been banned on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Where if you type it in, you literally go get deleted. So don't type it in to Facebook or Instagram. Just go to it.
Starting a militia?
They literally think it's a militia.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's interesting because if I started a militia, it wouldn't be a community-based organization, and it would be badass.
Yeah.
Like I'd be the commander of that militia. It'd be awesome. So it's not a militia. It's a community-based organization.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, I encourage everybody to go check that out. Mike's doing awesome stuff. I can attest to the awesomeness of the place, man. I encourage guys, if y'all find yourself in Utah, you owe it to yourself to swing by Fieldcraft HQ.
That's it. Heber City, Utah, fieldcraftsurvival.com.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank y'all. If you watched or listened, please leave us a rating and a review, and we appreciate you for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.